we're going to be discussing two things. Well, one concept, but it involves two different parts. And basically, we're going to be talking about parallel and perpendicular lines. So, excuse me. If we're talking about parallel lines, and we know what these look like. Parallel lines are, geometrically speaking, two lines that will never intersect. Also, perpendicular lines from a geometric standpoint are two lines that do intersect, but they intersect specifically at a right angle. Well, what does this mean in terms of algebra? Parallel, in terms of algebra, means that the slopes of our first line and the slope of our second line are equal. So for example, y equals 3x and y equals 3x plus 1 are both parallel lines. They are parallel to each other because they both have a slope of 3. Perpendicular lines, on the other hand, if the slope of two lines multiplies to give us -1, then the lines are perpendicular. This also means that we could say the slope of our second line is equal to -1 over the slope of our first line. So the lines y equals 3x and y equals -1/3 x are perpendicular. So these two lines are parallel. These two lines are perpendicular. So, what is the big thing that we will do from time to time with these? Well, most of the time, when we're talking about parallel and perpendicular lines, what we're trying to do is we're trying to find the equation of a line that is parallel or the equation of a line that is perpendicular. And it depends on what equation we're given and what point we're given as to what this actually will be. So, for example, let's say we have y equals 2/3 x plus 7. So this is my line. And I'm given the point -2, -1. Okay? I want to know two things. Let's first write the equation of a line through the point -2, -1 and parallel to y equals 2/3 x plus 7. Okay, so if we want to write this, well, parallel, just seeing that it says parallel, this tells me that the slope of my second line is 2/3. So the slope that I'm going to use is 2/3. The point I'm going to use is right here. So let's write the equation. I'm going to write the equation in point-slope form. So that would be y minus y1 equals my slope, x minus x1, and this simplifies down to y plus 1 equals 2/3 parenthesis x plus 2. And this is an acceptable way of writing the equation. If we wanted to write it in slope-intercept form, we could do that as well. But this is just one way for us to write down the equation. Now, let's say B, we are going to do the same basic thing. We're going to write the equation of a line. But we're going to write the equation of a line that passes through -2, -1, and is perpendicular to y equals 2/3 x plus 7. Well, what do I need? I need a slope, and I need a point. Well, I already have my point. This is the point that I'm going to use. So really I just need to use my slope. And because I'm looking at perpendicular, this tells me that whatever my slope actually is equals -1 divided by 2/3. And if you simplify this down, you end up with -3/2. So we now have, again, we're going to write it in point-slope form. Y minus y1 is equal to -3/2 x minus x1, and this simplifies down to y plus 1 equals -3/2 x plus 2. So, essentially, what do we have? We have our slopes that we need to consider. So the slope determines parallel/perpendicular. Or more often than not, neither of those two things. And other than that, it's writing the equation of a line, which we can do in one of three ways. We can either write it in slope-intercept form, we can write it in point-slope form, or we could write it in standard form. Those are our three options. Most of the time, this is the easiest form to write the line in. Not always, but a large portion of the time. This is the one that most of you are most comfortable with. which is fine because getting from here to here is not that bad at all. And then standard form kind of, when we need to write the equation of a line in standard form, it's not that complicated, but we just have to keep mindful of what we're doing. Okay. So, tomorrow in class, we are going to be looking at some of these and practicing some of these and identifying lines that are parallel or perpendicular to each other. Until then, I want you to stay safe, and I will see you in the next one.